Thank you so much, Chuk Survival. Thank you, Honorable Ugo. And thank you for the media and the Biafrans that are listening. First of all, I thank our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, for paving the way for us to be where we are today. I also use this opportunity to recognize and thank our Prime Minister, His Excellency, Simon Ekpa. I want to use this opportunity also to recognize the United States of Biafra secretaries and cabinet members, the Biafra Defense Forces, and the Biafra Liberation Army. Today, I'm just going to deliver two pronouncements from the United States of Biafra. My name is Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, the Chief of Staff, Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, acting on behalf of our Prime Minister, His Excellency Simon Ekpa, and currently heading the government of the United States of Biafra. I'm going to read the Code of Conduct Rules of Wartime Engagement, United States of Biafra Defense Forces. By virtue of my authority as the Commander-in-Chief of the Biafra Defense Forces, I hereby prescribe the Code of Conduct for members of the Biafra Defense Forces and to all or any other self-defense forces which we adhere to Biafra Defense Forces Code of Conduct, which is attached to this order and hereby made a part thereof. All Biafra Defense Forces are expected to measure up to the standards embodied in this Code of Conduct while in combat, at leisure, or in captivity. To ensure achievement of these standards, members of the Biafra Defense Forces liable to capture shall be provided with specific training and instruction designed to better equip them to counter and withstand all enemy efforts against them, and shall be fully instructed as to the behavior and obligations expected of them during combat, leisure, or captivity. The Code of Conduct provides guidance for the behavior and actions of members of Biafra Defense Forces. This guidance applies not only on the battlefield, but also in the event that the guerrilla fighter is captured and becomes a prisoner of war, POW, PCW. The code is delineated in a few articles. Article 1. I am a Biafran soldier fighting in the forces which want to liberate and guard my homeland and our way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. Article 2. I will never surrender of my own free will. If in command, I will never surrender the members of my command while they still have the means to resist. Article 3. I will fight courageously as if the issue of the success of the war depends solely on me. Article 4. If I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy. I will remain uncooperative to the best of my ability. Article 5. If I become a prisoner of war, I will keep faith with my fellow prisoners. I will give no information or take part in any action which might be harmful to my comrades. If I am senior, I will take command. If not, I will obey the lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them up in every way. Article 6. If I become a prisoner of war and questioned in the process, I am required to give my name, rank, service number, and date of birth. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements disloyal to my cause and order self-defense entities or harmful to their cause. Article 7. I will never forget that I am a soldier of the liberation struggle, fighting for my freedom and the freedom of my people, responsible for my every action and dedicated to the principles which has made us formidable, defiant, strong, ready, and able. I will trust in my God and in the protection from my foreparents. Article 8. I will obey all lawful commands and respect all superiors. I will refuse to obey any order which is obviously illegal, immoral, criminal, and not in consonance with the rules of engagement at war times. Article 9. I will undertake my mission with absolute courage and determination and be of assistance to my fellow Biafra Defense Forces soldiers, even at the risk of my own life. Article 10. I will abide by rules governing international humanitarian law as enshrined in the Geneva Conventions. Article 11. I will fight only enemy combatants and attack only military and administrative objectives of the occupier. Article 12. I will not attack or harm enemy personnel who surrender. I will disarm them and treat them as prisoners of war under the rules of engagement in war under the Geneva Convention. Article 13. I will not alter weapons or ammunition for the deliberate purpose of increasing suffering. Article 14. I will collect and care for the wounded, whether friend or foe. Article 15. I will not shoot or accept any other Biafra Defense Force soldier to shoot, maim, torture, or kill a wounded enemy combatant. Article 16. I will treat all civilians humanely. Article 17. I will not attack humanitarian and relief workers, hospitals, and civilian targets, medical personnel, and religious authorities and structures. Article 18. I will not be involved or tolerate in acts of rape, looting, and kidnapping. Article 19. I will respect all cultural objects, monuments, and places of worship. I will respect all persons and objects bearing the Red Cross and the Red Crescent and other recognized symbols of humanitarian agencies. I will respect flag of truce/surrender. Article 20. I will not attack another self-defense force or restoration forces or participate in any plan towards this regard. But if attacked by another self-defense force or restoration force, I will defend myself and my unit valiantly, and we treat the attacking force as enemy combatants. Article 21. I understand that disobeying any of these rules or protecting a fellow BDF soldier who has not respected one, more, or all of these rules is a crime. It dishonors Biafra Defense Forces as a responsible guerrilla fighting force, endanger the lives of other BDF soldiers, and make them liable, open to punishment as war criminals. I will therefore report the violation of any of these rules to my superiors. Signed, March 19, 2025, Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, Acting Head of State, Deputy Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief of the Biafra Defense Forces, on behalf of the Head of State, Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief of Biafra Defense Forces, Simon Ekpa Njako. The next article that I'm going to read goes thus. United States of Biafra Defense Forces, formerly the Biafran Armed Forces Command Headquarters. Humanitarian Declaration on the Protection of Humanitarian Assistance, Healthcare, and Schools from the Effects of Armed Conflict and Violence, issued by the United States of Biafra Defense Forces. Stressing our commitment to fully comply with our obligations under international humanitarian law, including the Geneva Conventions, their additional protocols, and customary international humanitarian law, international human rights law, including the Convention on the Rights of the Child and its optional protocols, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and relevant laws in line with international norms and standards. Asserting that the effective protection of humanitarian assistance, healthcare, and schools is achieved through the unconditional commitment to acknowledging their protection status, their protected status during armed conflict and other situations of violence, and their continued importance for the population. Convinced that attacks against humanitarian workers and equipment, healthcare providers and facilities, and the military use of an attack against schools constitute grave violations of the rule of war. Stressing our support for humanitarian assistance, healthcare, and education, and particularly the education and equality of girl children. Recognizing that the deprivation of humanitarian assistance, healthcare, and education of the population of the United States of Biafra is a violation of their fundamental human rights and their protection granted under the rules of war, as well as a hinder in the future development of the homeland. We, members of the Biafra Defense Forces, under the auspices of the United States of Biafra Department of Defense, in line with our internal rules and regulations, including the United States of Biafra Department of Defense Code of Conduct, declare that 1. We will strive to strengthen the rules and standards for the protection of humanitarian assistance, healthcare, and schools, and undertake all necessary measures to ensure their implementation. 2. We will ensure that our internal regulations and disciplinary measures clearly address these commitments. We will repress any acts contrary to these commitments, investigate them, and bring any of our members liable for such acts to accountability. We will disseminate and train our fighters on these commitments and the applicable frameworks to it. We commit to prevent military attacks and threats of attacks against humanitarian operators, healthcare facilities, schools, and protected persons in relation to these. Notably, we commit to prevent military attacks and threats of attacks against humanitarian operators. We will respect all medical personnel, units, and transports. We will not attack humanitarian and relief personnel or their objects. We will allow and facilitate their access to civilians in need. We will allow for medical vehicles to transit and access wounded and sick persons, including wounded and sick enemy fighters. We will respect all persons and objects bearing the universally recognized distinctive emblems such as the Red Cross and Red Crescent, as well as the banners of other humanitarian actors such as Doctors Without Borders and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. We will not use schools or educational facilities for military purposes or attack them militarily. We will allow and facilitate access to the United States of Biafra population of specialized independent humanitarian providers where we are in a position to do so, especially for the provision of aid and care to vulnerable population groups such as children, the elderly, and the disabled. We're in a position to do so. We will protect the humanitarian and medical personnel, units, and objects during their transit and access. We call on all concerned parties to cease the attacks and all other forms of abuse or harassment of protected persons and to take measures for their protection and access to humanitarian assistance, health care, and quality education. We call for schools in the conflict-affected rural areas of the United States of Biafra to be reconstructed and provided with quality equipment and culturally sensitive curricula so that students can resume their education, taking into consideration their cultural traits. We call on the relevant United Nations mechanisms and bodies in collaboration with other specialized actors to put the issues of humanitarian assistance, healthcare, and children's safe access to education in the United States of Biafra at the top of their priorities, including finding a monitoring mechanism to ensure the adherence of all concerned parties to the relevant international provisions and to put in place protection measures for their implementation. We, the undersigned, declare our absolute willingness to cooperate with all concerned parties to ensure the implementation of the provisions of the present declaration and the development of mechanisms that guarantees implementation. This was signed by the Honorable Solomon Nkwocha, the Secretary of Defense, approved by Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, Acting Head of State and Deputy Prime Minister on behalf of the Head of State and Prime Minister Simon Ekpa Njako. Finally, the United States of Biafra believes in the command and control structure. Thank you so much for listening to me, and this brings to end this particular reading today. Thank you.
There you have it, my people. There you have it. You've heard from our Deputy Prime Minister, Her Excellency, Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, in her declaration when it comes to the Humanitarian Act. She has discussed and made sure that we understand that our men on the front line, the Biafran soldiers in the front line, they must make sure they understand the rules of engagement. When you're on a tour, you must be your brother's keeper. That's what we're saying. You must support each other. It is all for one, one for all. Don't be a saboteur to your brother. When you're in a tour, if one man goes down, you all make sure you protect that person, support that person, and get that person to safety, if possible. Fellow Biafrans, today, I just want us to keep on remaining focused. You see what is happening in that zoo called Nigeria, the pandemonium, commotion. Technically, I want you all to know that the Nigerian government, they have redeclared war in Biafra land. Because we know that Iguacha, known as River State, the old River State, the real name is Iguacha. We know it is part of the eastern region. And last time I checked, our eternal leader, Odumegwu Ojukwu, was protecting the eastern region. And it was named Biafra from 1967 to 1970. So today, as we wrap this one up, I want you all to know that Tinubu, in his mind, he thinks what he's doing is politics. But every time, it's so funny that the Yoruba politicians that are made president in that zoo by the cabal, whenever they want to flex their muzzle, whenever they want to showboat, whenever they want to show that they've got some power, some strength, whenever they want to show their strength to the caliphate, they always choose a Biafran territory, a Biafran state to do this. The last time we saw what President Obasanjo did in Udi, a land in Biafra, where everything walking on two legs were wiped out. Nothing was left moving in that community. Everyone was wiped out. I call it a genocide. And today we see what is going on in the old River State, where the military has been sent into Biafra land by this man they call the president of that zoo called Nigeria, Tinubu. He has declared a state of emergency just to show off his strength, because they were trying to cower the so-called governor of River State, Fubara, and the rest of them. But again, yet again, it is the land of Biafra that they are doing this. As we speak, there is turmoil going on in Osun State, a Yoruba state. But the man they call Tinubu has not declared a state of emergency. As we speak, there is crisis in the north. Boko Haram, ISWAP, Lakurawa, headsmen and rest of them, killing Christians, maiming, kidnapping, looting, collecting taxations from the people. Terrorists collecting taxation from the people. But somehow the so-called president of that zoo, that shito country, does not deem it fit to declare a state of emergency in the north. No, he won't do it. He dare not do it. But in the case of two brothers having a misunderstanding, a godfather and a godson in the old River State, Mr. Tinubu has deemed it fit to declare a state of emergency. Fellow Biafrans, I want you to look at it from a different perspective. They are testing the waters. They are testing the ground. They are coming for war. Because those soldiers may never leave that territory until 2027. To Tinubu being greedy and selfish, being overzealous, he's thinking about the next election. But at the same time, he's trying to checkmate the Biafrans. If they can have their military on ground from Iguacha, what they call River State, it means perhaps when we come to implement Biafra, they already have men on ground in the land of Biafra. So I'm so happy with this. I call it the Riot Act, the humanitarian declaration done by our Deputy Prime Minister today, Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi Orabueze. It is divinely timed. It is the best time to come up with such an act, so that our men on ground, they will know that once they encounter enemies from the other side, they will know how to engage them, and they will know how to follow the rules of engagement. I'm happy about this. I am confident that going forward, our men on ground will be able to defend themselves, because Nigeria has declared war in Biafra land. The naysayers, the media might pretend not to know what it means for military to be on ground yet again in a foreign territory. Because since we redeclared our nation on the 29th of November 2024, every activity of Nigeria in the eastern region, the old eastern region, known as USB, Biafra, any activities by the Nigerian government, their military parastatus, should be seen as trembling, walking, encroaching in a foreign land. Because Biafra is now a nation. So we are saying we don't want any so-called Nigerian military parastatus in the land of Biafra. Fellow Biafrans, I will leave it here. All I want to say is kudos to the government, kudos to the cabinet, kudos to Biafrans. Now you understand when I say when we need leadership, we need those that have the caliber, those that have the onion, those who know what they are doing, those who are educated, those who are educated, those who are educated, because they have the capability to do things. They have the capacity to run a government, and they have the ability to hold their own. Thank you very much. Thank you, Biafrans, and may God bless Biafra. Thank you.
Biafra must be restored, for there is nothing the enemies can do about it. You brought Biafra that light may come into Africa. You gave us hope, because we are in a continent of hopelessness. And by thy grace, Biafra shall be restored. We shall be resurrected. We shall crown our efforts with the glory by the grace of the Most High Himself. We are not strong. We do not pretend to be strong. All we do is to submit ourselves to your will, that your will may be done upon our lives. We have lost many people. We have lost so many good people. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. We shall honor them, and for their sake Biafra will come. Because we are wandering all over the world, hoping against every hope that things will turn around for the better. It has never turned around for the better. Instead, it is getting worse. Please do not abandon your children. You have given us a commission. and we must accomplish it in our lifetime. Our enemies are equally important because they must listen. Those who do not love the truth must listen. Those who are beholden to darkness, they must also listen. For we are here to bring light upon a very darkened continent without Biafra. Africa is nothing without Biafra. There is no difference between a black man and a wild animal in the forest. We say every shred with every ounce of conviction. I welcome each and every one of you. If you're joining us for the very first time, this is Radio Biafra. This is how we do it. We magnify the name of the Most High before we do anything. That is why we are exceptionally formidable. That is why